Hi there, Kayla back again, and today we're going to talk about the mind-body connection, and I want to talk about this in a little bit of a different way than most people probably talk about it. I'm first going to go over some of the physical aspects, because I think most people don't know that there are physical aspects of this mind-body connection that we have, and then I want to talk a little bit more about what it is in more of maybe a less tangible topic and how we can use this to benefit our health. Before we get going, if you like this video, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, commented, and booped the little like button down below so that this video and others like it will be promoted for my channel more. I'm going to start with a story because I didn't always know about this mind-body connection that we have. And I think that bringing it into a personal perspective can be really helpful in talking about kind of vague ideas like this mind-body connection sometimes can feel like. So for me, when I was probably about 21, 22, my workplace, we had conferences about 3 times a year, and I was speaking to groups of about 80 to 100 people each time. And for some reason, my schedules and how they coordinated, it often hit the same weekend or week that I had midterms or I had finals or I had some other large family or personal matter to attend to, such as travel or preparing for something that was a big turning point for my personal life. And so during those times, it seemed like the day or two before the event, I would end up having my trapezius muscle right up here in my shoulder just clamp down. I would be under so much stress. I thought I was able to handle it. And then all of a sudden my body would just say no. It would clamp down. I wouldn't be able to move. I wouldn't be able to get dressed. I wouldn't barely even be able to get out of bed. And that was really scary. And I, before that, wasn't aware of how much stress, mental stress can affect our physical body and how it can respond to that. And that was really scary for me. I since have learned some better stress coping skills that I'll share with you later in this video, but also I've learned about how our body's physical connection can cause some issues like that. So stick with me and we'll go through all of it today. Just another thing that I wanted to let you know is this is actually the first series of 3 videos all on the mind-body connection and how we can use this in order to get and stay well. So if you like this video, the next few weeks you'll probably like as well. So I encourage you to stay tuned and look out for them in the next coming Fridays. So let's start with something that's very tangible and very easy to see. We have a physical body, and this physical body has components to it that are interconnected, integrated into each other. And from conception, that process starts of that integration of different parts of our body. And so what can happen is some people might not realize, but our brain is connected to our spinal cord, and from our spinal cord and column, we have nerves that travel out and around our entire body. So to some extent, our brain is connected to pretty much every part of our body that has a nerve. Even if it doesn't exactly have a nerve, there's going to be chemical exchanges throughout the body that's going to mean that nerve is going to still receive signals, even if it's not exactly where that issue is starting. And so one of the most prominent connections that people might not realize is our gut is really intensely intertwined with nerves. And if you're not eating well, or if you have something that you're allergic to, for me, it's gluten. If I eat gluten, not only do I have stomach pain, but I end up having what I call brain irritation. It feels like gnats flying around in my brain. It's not a pain, but it's a nuisance, and it can make me irritable. And some people don't realize that could be happening for them. That's part of our mind-body connection. Not only do we have our mind and can we influence our mind and our thoughts, but we have our physical body, and we can influence our thoughts and our behaviors with what we put in it, positively or negatively. And so that's one of the biggest ways that we have this connection in a physical mode. So another thing is to consider that we have nerves over our entire body. So we have nerves in our fingertips, we have nerves in our feet, we have nerves in our legs and our trunk, and all of those different places are going to be receiving sensations, and they receive a lot of sensations throughout the whole day, and they're sending signals to our brain. And our brain is able to moderate what we pay attention to as a sensation and what we block out. And so sometimes people might forget that we have kind of a moderation of the senses that we feel. And our body has had to build that over our entire life of what things do we feel, what things do we not feel, and that can change periodically as well. But that's one of the other ways that our brain and our mind are physically connected to our body and receive signals back and forth. And this last physical part, it's probably not the last physical part, but it's the last one I'm going to talk about today, is that we have glands in our brain, in the center of our brain most of the time, that are sending signals to other parts of our body. So it doesn't just go, the body sends signals to the brain. The brain can then send signals out to the body based on feedback that it's receiving. So for example, we have the hypothalamus, we have the pituitary gland, and all of those things are receiving messages from our environment, and they're going to send signals out to other organ systems, and they're going to help with regulating things. Some of those glands regulate our temperature, some of them regulate our respiratory rate, some of them regulate our hormones. And so all of those things in our body have this kind of back and forth communication. So not only is our mind a really important part of how we can sustain our wellness, but it can actually be a tool for us to be able to communicate with the internal parts of our body on a deeper level to some degree. So just keep that in mind when we're going into more of this vague idea of mind-body connection. It really is something that we can give more thought and use as a useful tool in order to help affect our internal body, especially if that might not be as well as we would like. Okay, so let's start to bridge into this less physical topic of the mind-body connection. So our mind, really, our thoughts can send signals into our internal body, like I just said. And we have these effects that we've seen in scientific studies. We all know about the placebo effect. What happens is you think you're getting a medication when you're not getting a medication. And what happens is your body sends cascades of signals throughout it that, because it thinks it's getting a certain chemical or substance that's going to cause a specific cascade or change, it actually starts to cause that type of cascade or change. And so we don't really know exactly why this happens, but our thoughts can be really powerful at influencing our internal environment. And keeping that in mind is a really powerful tool for us when we're thinking of all of the different things that we can put in our health tool belt in order to be able to build up our physical wellness. And part of this has to do with our conscious and our unconscious mind. And those are two parts of our mind that balance each other out. Consciously, I know I'm sitting here talking to YouTube, and I know that someone on the other end will probably be watching this. That's my conscious mind thinking through this. However, my unconscious mind is doing a lot of different things. It's one, preparing me for what I'm about to say unconsciously. It is keeping my blood pressure up. It is making me blink. It's making me breathe. And so we have different aspects of that can be physical, but there also can be an emotional component of that. Some people, we have emotions that end up becoming repressed, such as shame or guilt or anger. And what can happen is when we don't necessarily allow our body to feel that emotion or physical feeling, sometimes pain becomes blocked out even, then what we can do is we can have other things that cascade and happen in our body that might not be desirable as well. And some of those things are stress and our stress response. When we repress those feelings and we don't allow our body to feel some of those stressful feelings, like I was in preparing for that event, if I wasn't allowing myself to feel stressed, taking time for myself to sit there and be okay not doing something for just maybe even 2 or 3 minutes, that all builds up and our body starts to have different responses to it. For me, it was probably that my circulation started to go inwards into my trunk. And instead of being out and flowing through muscles, it went to specific areas of my body that needed to keep functioning on a baseline level. And that can cause muscle contractions. So that's part of what I'm starting to work you towards, is this integration of our physical body and our mental and emotional state. So one of the things that this issue can really cause is, we might be wondering, okay, well, I can understand what you're saying, Kayla, but why is this really important? And the reason is because if people have struggles like stubborn weight gain, chronic pain, cancer, liver disease, chronic fatigue, digestive problems, we might be thinking some of these symptoms that I'm having is not really logical. I'm not eating something that I'm having a sensitivity to, or I've been eating really well and I haven't been able to lose weight, or I have this chronic pain. They've done everything that the doctors think should be able to correct the issue. What else could be going on? Because even when we have a physical trauma or something that changes our body externally in the physical part, even if you correct that physical issue, sometimes our body has this, like I talked about, unconscious memory of that experience. And how can we use our mind-body connection in order to kind of shift that and start to move and disrupt that pattern that might be happening in our life? And sometimes that's a physical pattern, sometimes that's an eating pattern, sometimes that's a stress pattern, but sometimes it could be other things that are going to be different. So it could be a relationship pattern, it could be a job and employment pattern. So just keeping that in mind, and if you want to learn more about how our personal patterns can affect our health, our mind-body connection, and how we can use our mind-body in order to help restore and balance our personal patterns. Next week's video will actually go a lot more detail into that topic specifically. So I encourage you to join me, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Until next time, be well.